Okay, so my talk is actually very, 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 very simple. The idea is that if we are going to build a huge AI and digital infrastructure in Saudi Arabia, there are two ways of building it, right? One way is we buy, install, use, 3 years later, rebuy, reinstall, reuse, keep on doing it. But there is another way. The other way is that we install, yes, but we learn. We learn, we build the capability, we build our people, we build a way so that we own it over time through building global partnerships. Because in a very fractured world, with very thin supply chains, there is no guarantee that anybody can offer, no guarantee any nation can offer, no guarantee any company can offer to anybody that I will give you this thing, because they don't know themselves if they can give it. Let's say there is a US company or a Chinese company supplying us a part today. How can they tell us that 3 years from now they can supply us that part or that machine? Why? Because they don't even know what their national policy will be 3 years from now, right? So I think what I want to talk about is, let's see what we are doing in this nation today and how we can potentially all gather together and see things if we are in a slightly different way or a better way. So I think if you look at headlines, and even if you put the numbers together, you can easily count the number of people, companies who are building AI and digital infrastructure in this, and semiconductor is a piece of it. But if you do the numbers, I think we have people from McKinsey here and EY here, and I think they will tell us the real numbers. But as a very novice person, you can say the number is 500 billion, something like that. Maybe close to $1 trillion numbers are going to spend one way or the other. Even if you believe 1/4 of that will be done, it still would be $250 billion kind of infrastructure will be built here, right? So the numbers are definitely big. The great thing about this nation I love, which is actually there's only other one nation in the world which has that we have a vision, a direction. You know how many countries in the world have no direction? I actually belong to two other countries, one where I was born and when I was a citizen of. Both of them have no direction that I can see or what is stated. You guys do not understand how useful it is to have a vision, a direction, so that everybody can align. This, I believe, is a very strong thing, and I think we should drive our actions from this vision. Again, I think I was trying to do the math, that if I just do the math of how much semiconductors will be bought, I think I can easily come up with a number which will be excess of 400, 500 billion dollars based on the announced projects that I have seen. This would be starting from Neom, Alat, Humane, private investments between a lot of corporations. It's a large number. We can argue about the numbers and analysts can give a number, but it's a large number. So as I said, if our model is that we are going to, so let's say we have to build infrastructure worth $500 billion. Okay. If you build infrastructure of $500 billion, you have to understand something about the gross margin structure of the companies that work, especially the chip companies, right? Most chip companies have a gross margin in 50%, 55%. Some have an obscene gross margin of 80%. I won't name that company, but they do have margins like that. What does it mean? It means that if I am buying one chip, 2 chips, 10 chips, so I am paying them $10 million, which means I'm paying them $7 million of gross margin. Maybe it makes sense. But if I'm buying $10 billion worth of stuff, does it make sense to pay $7 billion of gross margin? Can we use a few $billion from the 7 billion that we are putting to actually build the chip here? Even if that chip or that system may not be as good enough, but imagine if you could start redirecting some of those numbers. So this only applies to Saudi Arabia. It doesn't apply to a company or a nation which is buying a few chips, a few systems. Because if you're buying $100 million, okay, you have to pay $50-60 million in gross margin. But do you have to do that if you are buying $100 billion worth of stuff? Can we redirect some of that money? So the thing I see wrong with just buying and installing is, number one, it doesn't help the sovereignty of the nation. We will not be able to stand on our feet. We cannot even sit on the table to negotiate better prices or better supply chains. We will have no sovereignty. I think every nation, especially in the divided world, should aim to have some kind of sovereignty, right? It's very, very important, not just in semiconductor, AI, in everything else. I mean, people are talking about food security and so on and so forth. That it applies to everything. Second thing is, if you're just in the business of buying stuff and installing things, it's not going to drive employment. It is not going to improve the skills of our local people here. It is not going to engage them in the economy. So the people are going to become two kinds of people, right? This become a bipolar society. People who are working with people who are bringing here and installing things, they will become richer and richer, and then there will be another population which is not involved in technology. They are not learning, they are not improving their skill, they are not employed. So what is going to happen to them? You will have a strict bipolar economy. Is that what we want in this nation? We don't want that. We want this digital infrastructure, this AI, to uplift everybody. Not make rich people richer, but also uplift everybody in the country, right? So the only way to do that is not just buy and install and work with few people, but somehow distribute the benefit of, and the way you distribute that is to involve everybody, train them, so that they become partners in technology development. And the third thing is, what is the economic value, especially the long-term economic value of installing and using? I don't know. I actually don't know. How do you buy $10 billion worth of stuff and set up a data center and then 3 years somehow magically make $10 million to return the original money, make another $10 billion for the next install, and then have some money profit left over? I don't know how to do that. So I think it's very questionable to me that if you are just in the business of buying and installing, how do you make money from that also? So I think we have to ask the question, how do we really make money? And I think we make money by trying to optimize the supply chain, reduce the cost of installation, and the only way I know that is to participate in the technology development, bring the technology here. So bringing the technology here, it will not only uplift the technology of this country, but I think it will go a long way to make us a sovereign nation, at least in technology. It will create employment and make sure the economic, welfare is not just for few people, but more importantly, it will create long-term economic value for the country. So we have some experiment that I can talk about, which has been useful. So we started about 2 years ago that an experiment, can we do this in semiconductor? The task here is much bigger, but we did an experiment in semiconductor. So we said, okay, what would you like to do? What are the capabilities that you need? The experiment we did is called National Semiconductor Hub. It's an attempt of localization of semiconductors, okay? Not AI and digital infrastructure. So let's just talk about what did we think about it. I believe we can learn from that. So number one, we thought that there should be 5 elements of such a plan, of localization plan. One, there should be a way to attract international corporations to come to Saudi Arabia, because we cannot magically start companies which can start doing some magical chips, right? So there has to be a way to attract, which means some kind of a marketing, going to all the places where international interesting people exist, how we can bring them. That's effort number one. Effort number two, you have to have an incentive package. You have to give them some money, some policy incentives, whatever incentives. Why should they come here? Why should they not go to Malaysia? Why should they not go to India? Why should they not go to anywhere else in the world, right? Every nation is trying to build sovereignty. Every nation is trying to do technology because it's a desperate issue, right? Everybody sees this as a desperate issue. So that's the second part. Third thing is, you have to invest in these companies. You have to have VCs investing. You have to have nation invested. If the nation is not serious about this, it's not going to happen. Fourth thing is, anybody who's bringing the company is going to ask you a question, where is the skilled manpower, human resource that we can use? The human resource you cannot train, because they say, if I get trained in semiconductor, where I'm going to get the job? So you have a chicken and egg problem here, right? Which is everybody faces. And the last thing is, you have to have domestic demand. Why would somebody come here, raise money here, set up everything, have the people here, produce everything to sell to everywhere else in the world, if there is no local demand, when supposed to be a vision 2030 here and trillions of dollars are to, makes no sense, right? So we basically worked on these 5 things. And in these 2 years that we have been doing it, I can tell you that this small experiment has been quite successful. We have been able to attract about 20 companies to come here. And 20 companies include companies which are doing MEMS, the companies which are doing AI accelerators, companies which are doing various different kind of sensors. They are not from one narrow niche, but pretty wide. And secondly, on the incentives, we have been able to work with NTTP, we have to work with MIM, within MIM, NIC, and many other organizations. We have been able to find grants, $2 million, $3 million. We have been able to find incentives where people can get, if you're doing something innovative, between $7 to $14 million. So this country is rich in programs, but they're hidden away. They're here. And so we helped create GSG. I think Turkey was talking earlier. And I'm hoping there will be many more organizations like GSG. Their job is to welcome companies, go find these pockets of money and help. So I think there's a lot of money. The other thing we have done is we have formed a fund which is called Global Saudi Fabless Semiconductor Fund. Initially it's a $500 million fund with the help of Apex. And that fund is going to provide the VC backing to the companies that are coming here. And they will work with other companies. So that is another thing. On the training, Dr. Ahmed led the first training program here. Now we are gearing up for the second training. We were able to find good students here. We were able to train them. It is not where I'm going to find we have the people here. It is a matter of getting them trained. They're very excited. The young people in this nation are very excited to participate in that. Our experience was fantastic. And lastly, I think we have been able to connect our companies and find local demand. There are a lot of interesting companies, but this is one thing I want to emphasize is, please, let's not always look towards the government. I think the private industry has to lead it. Government will help, government will always help, but we cannot start by saying, government is not doing something, they don't have this, I need this millions of dollars, I need these billions of dollars. I think they should help. But if the private industry is not wedded into that, we are not going to. So anyway, this is what we did in NSH. I wanted to basically conclude all that into a very, very simple single slide. I think what we should do is to take the little experiment that we did in semiconductors of National Semiconductor Hub and make that into a much wider thing. Because the issue is not just semiconductor. I think issue is the entire stack, the entire AI infrastructure build. The issue is with cooling solutions. The issue is with cables. The issue is with everything else that goes into build. So if we are going to be a sovereign nation in AI and digital infrastructure, we have to commit ourselves to that. So what I would like to suggest today is that let's form a think tank, an association, a gathering of people, of all the companies that are interested in localization. And what those companies will do is that we get together every quarter, every month, and first we do is let's set a goal for this nation. Part of the Vision 2030, by 2030, how many billion dollars worth of stuff will be made in this country that will be used in our AI and digital infrastructure? Is it 1 billion? Is it 2 billion? I don't actually even care if it is 1 real. You have to start. If we don't start, we will never reach anywhere. So my suggestion is very, very simple. I think where we stand today, we have the people. In this room, we have people who have done 300 tape outs. In this room, at least I know 2 people who have done more than 300 tape outs individually. We have people here who have built 10, $20 billion revenue companies in this room. We have people who have run funds over $10 billion in this room. I'm not talking about some other room. I'm talking in this room, right here. In this room, people are sitting who have work in world-class semiconductor companies, world-class supply chain companies. So we don't have to look outside. We don't have to say some magical angels will have to come and help us. We can help ourselves. So my plea to all of you is very, very simple. Let's organize ourselves. Let's collaborate. Let's build some kind of an association. Me and Andy last night, Andy works in our marketing department, works for Chloe. I said, late last night, Andy, give me a name. Says, I'll use ChatGPT. I said, ChatGPT is forbidden to find a name like that. So me and Andy came up with a name. We can come up with another name. We call it Saudi Association for AI and Digital Infrastructure. Saudi. Sounds like Saudi, but Saudi. And Saudi also is kind of, in Urdu, in my language, it means simple. Because I really think it's all about doing it very simply. But I think the first thing we should do is to set a goal for ourselves. What do we want to do? What is our localization goal? It can be in numbers, but then it should be sector by sector. For example, how many cooling solutions are we going to install by 2030? Pick a number. 100,000? Can we say at least 1,000 then will be made here? I mean, that's not a big stretch, right? How many PDUs are we going to use by 2030? A million? I don't know, maybe tens of millions. Can we say we'll make 1 million of them in this country? I believe this association should do that first. And secondly, we should have KPIs. Okay, let's break that goal. What are we going to achieve in 2026, 2027, and so on and so forth? Then measure ourselves. Let's meet once a quarter and look at the progress. Look at collaboration. Let's say Giovanni wants to hire 50 people. Either he can struggle or he can send a note to all of us, says, guys, we need to hire. Anyway, that was my message. I had promised that I will finish on time. I'm out of time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening to me.